will jump into it. All right, recording. Good. Okay, so welcome to SoStocked. My name is Ari Cohen. Chelsea Cohen is my wife. She is the founder with Dan Fernandez. We started selling on Amazon back in 2014 in sunny Southern California. And in 2016, we moved out here to Austin, Texas, where we currently reside. We started SoStocked in 2018 after selling on Amazon for about 4 years. And we just kept running into the typical inventory problems. We were a private label business sourcing from overseas, mostly in China, but we had products from multiple countries. And our biggest problems at the time were just like, we would place inventory orders and we would forget, we just get busy with life, and I didn't remember to follow up on time, and we just assumed everything would go as according to plan, and then our suppliers wouldn't get the production done on time, or there was, a storm in China, or, Lord knows what. Anything that could happen did happen. One of our biggest inventory kerfluffles was one Christmas when our shipment got delayed in China by a week, and it arrived to Amazon FBA 1 week after the cutoff date, or just a few days after the cutoff date for the Black Friday inventory at Amazon. And long story short, they did not check that inventory in until the day after Christmas. So we lost the entire Christmas season of sales on our biggest selling products. And it was marked as missing inventory, but it wasn't missing. It was literally just sitting on pallets in the Amazon Fulfillment Center parking lot in Joliet, Illinois. And I was so frustrated, I was about to just literally fly out to Chicago and drive to Joliet and go to the Amazon warehouse and just restock it myself. But lo and behold, we started the software, and it has evolved quite a lot in the last couple of years. We are currently, as of right now, we're currently in advanced beta, and basically that just means that we're doing the final touches for making the software as close to perfect for this first iteration as possible. As with any software or any high-tech product goes, there's always a myriad of things that you can improve. We have a whole laundry list of things that we're going to improve. But let me show you how it works currently. And as I'm going through the demo, feel free to type in questions in the chat. We also have the Q&A. So I have a lot of windows I have to monitor: the Q&A, the chat, the participants window, and then my screen share over here on the other screen. So let's jump over to the other screen. And I'll just start down here at settings. So I'm recording this just FYI, so I can upload this later and have an overview demo call video for people who aren't able to make it to these live demos. So SoStocked, and also I just want to acknowledge that we have a new participant, Teresa. Welcome to the call. This is a live webinar. So SoStocked, the whole purpose of SoStocked is to take some of the pain out of inventory management. And so the first thing you're going to do when you start using it is we're just going to go through the setup guide down here. And this basically just helps you to create your account, to connect it to Amazon. We use an API into Amazon, just like any other seller software tool. If you use a PPC management tool, sponsored ads, if you use some kind of a ranking tool, any kind of launching tool, any type of tool that looks at your Amazon data, this is exactly the same type of API. We will automatically pull in, once you connect your account, we'll automatically pull in all of your products from Amazon. And there's some setup that is to be done, but all of them are automatically pulled in, and it pulls all the basic data, the SKU, the ASIN, how much FBA stock you have, your sales history, things like that. We will also, through the API, pull in all of your vendors. So a vendor is either a warehouse where you store your inventory, a supplier, freight forwarder. So anything that's connected to Amazon will be pulled in, and then you can create new vendors, and we'll talk about how to use those. There's all kinds of ways you can sort this data, But what I really want to do is spend a majority of the time talking about our forecast, which is sort of the foundation of, uh, of the system. So, you know, there's an old saying in software, and that is garbage in, garbage out. So one of the things that I just really want to press home here is that the information that you put into the software is very important. So I want to touch on some of the key issues that could make or break your forecasting. When we originally created this, the forecast was very simple and algorithmic, and it was just based on simple formulas. And then we realized, after we did so many one-on-one onboarding calls during our beta over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, we were getting all this feedback from users, and they said, well, it should be this way, or I want this functionality, or I want to be able to program this, or exclude this kind of a stock out, or all these different scenarios. And so we basically had to scrap the entire forecast and rebuild it into what it is now, which is very sophisticated. And it's actually pretty user-friendly once you get the hang of it, but you need to understand how it works. It's kind of like going and buying a modern car with all the touch screens and the buttons and all the tech. If you were to show that car to someone in the 1980s, they would freak out. It's just so advanced, they wouldn't understand, you know, how touch screens and navigation works. But now it's just kind of second nature. Okay, good, let's jump into it. So this is our forecast page. So all the products on the default dashboard here, each one of these is a dashboard at the top, and you can create new dashboards. But the default dashboard is, it's basically, what do I need to order from my supplier? And it's grouped all of your products by supplier. So we have all of our products here that are produced by ABC supplier. And then if we scroll down, it would be divided into the next suppliers. The green buttons are basically telling us that we need to place an order based on the data that we're calculating. And the blue buttons are transfers that we need to place, and with an upcoming date. So green is order from your supplier, blue is transfer from a third-party warehouse or wherever you're storing your inventory, and then it will go into Amazon. All right, I'm gonna go and use, let's see, let's use, which one do I want to use as an example? One that has some decent velocity. Okay, how about this one? We'll just use this top one. So the stainless shaker here, it's saying basically that we have 4 days of inventory left. And this red exclamation means we're gonna have a stock out unless we restock quickly. Let's jump in here on this velocity button, and I'll explain what all of this means. So the default setting when you jump into the system is what's called a velocity calculation. And when you first jump into the system, all of these are going to be green. And all it's doing is it's pulling data for the last 180 days from your Amazon seller account. And it's calculating what were your average sales, your average daily sales, we call that velocity, for those periods of time, from 180 days to more current, the last couple of days. So for a lot of private label sellers, they might look at a velocity kind of like this, 60, 90, 60, and 30 days. And it will just add those up and divide it by 3. Now in this particular example, we later on added an additional 20% growth, which I'll show you. And that would equal to approximately 85 sales a day. So that's just, we're trying to estimate what our sales are going to be moving into the future. And with this basic calculation, that doesn't take into account seasonal ups or downs or stock outs or anything like that. This is just, if I keep selling what I've been selling over the last 90 days, and I look at all 3 of these and divide it, what should I expect to keep selling? But let's say you're coming out of a busy season and you're not selling this much anymore, or maybe you're going into a busier season. You can uncheck some of these and you'll see that the number down here changes a little bit, right? So if I were to do something like this, I'm actually averaging more sales here than I was back here. So for my products, for example, some of the stuff we're selling in our business, more health related, kitchen products and things like that. And they do really well after Christmas for the first 2 months of the year, January and February. And then once we get into March and April, it slows down quite a bit. So if that were the case, I would want to look at more of a current velocity and not use this data back here to predict my coming sales in the next month or two. So that's basically how this works. You can play around with this. Some people even just use the last week or two. You know, we work with a lot of wholesalers, meaning they actually, a wholesaler is an Amazon, in Amazon basically means they wholesale inventory from a wholesaler, and then they retail it on Amazon, but they're buying wholesale products. They're not producing the products. And they're sharing the buy box, and they have products that come and go. So they're using like real-time data only and trying to just predict the future sales that way. There is an option to put a heavier weight on whatever green boxes you've clicked on. So let's say I wanted to put 80% of my attention on the last 2 days and then the rest over here. That kind of changes it a little bit, takes a little bit away from here. Most people don't use that weighted average, but it's an option. So that's the first way you can do your baseline velocity calculation, is this one up here. The next one is very rudimentary, and it's just called a manual velocity. So basically that means if I just put in a number, like let's say I'm launching a new product and I have no sales data in Amazon to calculate, or I'm doing my product research and I've looked at some competitors and I go, yeah, that product generally sells, that product type, about 80 units a day. That's what I expect to sell. You could pop that in there to get started until you have a month or two of sales history, and then click back to the velocity calculation and it'll start doing it for you. Or if you re-ranked and you were out of stock for a long time, you could use that. Now this last one is pretty cool. This is called last year's sales. And basically what this is doing is it's looking back over the last year and going, well, last year, how many sales were you making today? So last year on March 11th, we did 13 sales. And then this is going all the way up to yesterday. If I scroll down, 365 days, right? So, whoops, here. So I guess yesterday we did 56 sales, a little less than normal. And then today there's an asterisk because it's only 8 o'clock in the morning and we can't calculate what we've done today so far because our API pulls the information every 24 hours. But you get the idea. If you choose this, it will literally mimic those exact sales. Now this has a 20% growth on top of it, as I mentioned before, so that's why these numbers are larger. Okay, and this is great because you can actually use last year's sales to sort of predict your seasonal ups and downs. Let me show you that a little bit better. If I change the view to monthly, so I only have 12 entries instead of 365, you'll see that this product generally sells more in the summertime, and then in August it goes down again. And then it's pretty slow all the way up until December, and then January does really well. You get the idea. So if we're using last year's sales, SoStocked can predict these future increases and will actually tell you to place your orders and transfers based on that. Obviously, if you're selling more than you were last year, you want to add some growth on top of that. I see we have a question from Teresa. Can you make the velocity take into account stock out situations where you are not selling current, but could be selling with high velocity if you have the product in stock? Yes, it'll absolutely do that. Let me show you that in just a few minutes. So those are the three baseline velocity calculations. This velocity calculation, the manual one, or last year's sales. So for now, on this product, I'm going to use last year's sales, and I'm just going to save it to this product only. Now, by the way, when you save these things, let me go back in here. Anytime you make a save on any of the settings that we're going to be talking about, you have the option to save it to all products across your entire, across your entire business, or you can filter the products using the dashboards I showed you up above. You can save it only for the supplier, for this brand, marketplace, and you can even tag products like seasonal products, for example. If I wanted to use a certain type of setting and save that setting only to my Christmas time products, you can do that. And that applies for any of the things I'm going to show you. So right now it's going, last year we were only selling 15 sales a day. So we're going to use that number to move forward. Now I know that that's not really true because if I look at our current sales, it's a lot higher, but I'm just showing you that as an example. If we click into this number, the FBA days number, it opens up all these additional tools. The first one is just a basic graph that shows you weekly sales going back as far as we can up to 2 years. And it will only go up to 2 years because that's all Amazon will give us based on their API. But if you started selling last year in June, the graph would only go back that far. So this is another good way to kind of see your seasonal ups and downs. So right now we kind of are just coming out of our seasonal spike, and we're doing better this year than we were last year, of course. All right, I'm going to minimize that and get into all the settings. So now over here, we've got what's called the inventory timeline. And this shows you what you have currently at the warehouse, what you have at FBA currently, your projected velocity based on those settings we just made, and your current inventory levels going down as you make sales. And then I'll explain what all these numbers are later. But first, I want to talk about some of these settings. Just so I don't leave Therese without answering your question, down here under the trend, under this area here, you see stockouts. So automatically we are looking for and filtering out stockouts. So again, we're using last year's velocity as a future forecast. So if I click on this, you can see that this is turned on. So that means if it's on, it's filtering out the stockouts. And what it's doing is it's looking over the last 365 days and trying to find any day when you were either A, out of stock completely, like on May 5th, or B, where your sales dropped by 70% or more, leaving you only 30% or less of your average daily sales. And that's considered a partial stock out. So it looks like what happened was on May 4th, we ran out of inventory. So we only made 10 sales that day. And then on May 5th, we made 0 sales because we were out. And then I'm assuming on May 6th, the new inventory started checking in. So we had those 2 stock out days. So if this is turned on, SoStocked will factor those out, and they will just give you on your prediction moving forward. They're just going to predict that you're going to sell what you were averaging around that 30-day period. So probably around, looking at these numbers, probably around 27, 30. Let's look actually May 5th and May 4th. We can actually take our timeline and scroll to May 4th and 5th, and that is what it's predicting we'll make. So you notice that it's factoring out those stock out days from last year. So that answers your question. Let's go back up here to the settings. And I know I'm talking really fast because I have a lot to cover in this webinar. So that's why we're recording it. All right. The order schedule. By the way, I just want to make a point that Dan, our partner and our CTO, really pushes home heavily. This square up here, these are the most important settings in all of your forecast page, because if you do this wrong, then all these numbers are going to be totally whack. And I'll explain why. This is like how you're ordering products and setting parameters for how the ordering and the transferring goes. So you know, so that the information, the suggestions you're getting from SoStocked are actually meaningful. So up here on order schedule, you have the option to choose how frequently you want to be told to place your inventory orders. From as needed to daily. I mean, you can choose any combination of days or weeks or months. We tend to do it as needed because our sales do go up and down quite a bit. And we're placing larger orders generally. But some people place orders every month. So whatever is easier for you. The one caveat or proviso that I will give you is if you choose something like every month, make sure that you actually choose a start date that is after today. So right now it's the 11th. So I would want to choose either today or a day close to today, but not too far into the future. Let me tell you what I meant by that. If I said I want to place my orders on the first of the month starting in April, if I were running low on inventory and SoStocked predicts a stock out, and I'm choosing to not place an order until April 1st, I might run out of inventory because SoStocked normally would say, hey, you should probably place an order like right now because you're going to run out. But I'm telling them, no, I want you to wait till April. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to do a specific order schedule, you might on your first order just choose like tomorrow, for example, and then you can always change it to the first after you've placed that first order. But in this case, I'm going to do as needed. And then the start date is irrelevant because it's just going to do it based on all the suggestions down here. I'm going to go over all this stuff in the transfer schedule because the changes that you make in the transfer schedule or the order schedule down here for your minimum and maximum restocking, they apply to each other. So for now, I'm just going to save this. Okay, and let's go into transfer schedule. So it's as needed ordering, and I'm going to do as needed transferring as well so I can show you some of these features. If we choose as needed order transfer, then basically this is gives you the options of looking at, well, what are the parameters? We can't just say order as needed. We have to tell the software how much do I order, how little do I order, when, and all that kind of stuff. So basically what we're doing is setting stock limits. Excuse me. So I want to look at my minimum and maximum stock in days, not in units. That's just my personal preference. Because units, they're not dynamic. Days are dynamic. If my velocity goes up, I still want to be able to think in terms of how many days of inventory I have. If I'm selling 10 units a day and I have 300 units, that's only 30 days of inventory. But if I jump up to 30 sales a day, then those 300 sales or 300 units only become, whatever it is, like 9 days or something like that. So I want to use days. All right, so I'm setting a parameter for minimum of 30 days of FBA buffer stock. FBA buffer stock is like the low fuel light on your dashboard. You just want something to make sure that you don't run out of gas, so to speak, right? So this is telling the software, don't let them run out of gas. As soon as you get down to 30 days, that's when you should have a new order checking into Amazon, so you never get to zero, ideally, right? Now, obviously, there's going to be occasions where crazy things happen that nobody can predict. One Christmas time, we had a product that was featured on the USA or the Today Show, and we didn't ask for it. We had no idea it was going to happen. We just one day saw on TV that they were showcasing our product with our brand name on it on the Today Show. We're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. They're like, hey, this is a great holiday gift. And lo and behold, our sales went out the roof and it was amazing. And of course, we stocked out. There's no way SoStocked can predict that. Also, SoStocked could never predict that your competitor goes out of business and then people start buying your product instead, or you get suspended from Amazon or things like that. But under normal circumstances, we're going to set this 30 days so that we can have some extra there. And then in this case, there's one more point I want to make about having buffer stock. Besides the obvious reasons of spending a lot of money to re-rank and restock your inventory, express shipments to restock when it's going to take too long by the boat, so maybe you send some air freight, you get the idea. Besides those obvious reasons, there's another reason why it's very important to keep, oh, wow, I see a whole bunch of new questions here. Let me get to those. I wasn't scrolling through that feed. There's a couple other reasons why, or one other main reason I just want to touch on. It's called geo-ranking. Geo stands for geographical, and ranking just means ranking on Amazon. So Amazon's algorithm is very tricky, and they do all kinds of stuff that they don't tell us about. And one of them is called geo-ranking. When you have inventory at Amazon, you have inventory at multiple fulfillment centers. Well, sometimes what they'll do is their algorithm will calculate based on the inventory you have at that fulfillment center. Let's say you make a lot of sales in Southern California. So they want to make sure you have enough inventory at that particular fulfillment center to meet their 1 or 2 day prime delivery, et cetera. If your inventory gets too low, they won't tell you this, but you'll start noticing that your ads aren't showing up as much in that geographical area. And that actually de-ranks you a little bit. So keeping that inventory at Amazon is important so you don't have de-ranking and all that. Let me just check over these questions real quick. Leah asks, can it also show velocity sales per channel, for example, each Amazon market? Yes, so we can do Amazon marketplaces. You'll have it separated on their US marketplace. If you can actually even divide it by US, Canada, Mexico. Obviously, UK is now separate from Europe because of Brexit, so you can separate all those. We're currently in North America, and we're in the UK and Europe, and we're working on Australia and Japan and a couple others coming. Amazon made some recent changes to their API connection, making it a little bit more difficult, but we're in the process of doing that. But yeah, you can break it up per marketplace. And actually, I'm glad you asked that question. Currently, as of right now, March 11th, 2021, we are only in Amazon. So our API only works for Amazon marketplaces. But in the next month or two, one of our big updates is that our API is going to actually connect us to Walmart, to eBay, to Shopify, if you have a Shopify site, and some others. ShipStation, which is like a third party that connects to multiple different channels, and a few others. So I won't get too much into that, but that's a good update on the way. So we'll be able to look at the sales and the real numbers from other marketplaces. Sultan asks, how does the tool combine multiple marketplaces for restocks and repurchase orders? I'll go over that a little bit later, if you can try to remind me, or I'll just look at your question again. I have a bulk upload function for IPI limit record reports. Does this need to be uploaded by us manually, or is it pulled in automatically through API? Yeah, so for those watching that maybe aren't as familiar, IPI stands for Inventory Performance Index. That's this up here. And basically, you know, it's another one of those Amazon algorithms where they're constantly judging you as a seller, and they're so judgmental, those Amazon guys. And you know, basically, how are you restocking? How old is your inventory? All these parameters, and then based on all these numbers, your sell-through rate, they'll give you this arbitrary restock limit. And the answer, Sultan, is this is automatically pulled from Amazon, so you don't have to do anything. As you can see here, our IPI limit is 15,000-ish units. We currently have 2,300 in Amazon. So the total we could ship to Amazon would be 12,688 or 668, which is about 812 days, which is way more than my max stock. So I'm not really going to use that on this particular product. But if you were running close to your IPI limits, we have some folks that are like, unfortunately, with newer products or whatever, their IPI limit, they're almost completely up to that limit already. So they use that, and they're pretty much transferring like every day, like every couple of days, they're sending in 20, 30, 40 units. It's really annoying until their IPI limit goes up. All right, I'm gonna have to keep moving forward here. So back to this one, we talked about geo ranking, and we're also gonna have a maximum stock limit to help this as needed calculation. So basically, I'm telling the system, I want to stock up to 90 days worth of inventory at Amazon, 3 months. We're going to sell for a couple of months down to 30 days. And just about the time when we get to 30 days left of inventory, that's when my new shipment or transfer comes in. So we're just kind of using those parameters. And I want to keep a little bit of buffer stock at the warehouse. I'm not going to put a maximum because, you know, I mean, I just want to order enough to keep this stuff in inventory and a little bit extra. There's not really a maximum at my warehouse. I can keep as much as I want there. That's pretty much more based on what I can afford and how fast I'm selling these products. But you can if you want. All right, and then if I wanted to, I could use my IPI limit. So I'm just gonna save this for now. I think it was already saved, but I'll just do it. So, and I'll go into this a little bit later. So we've done that. We have a minimum order quantity of 1,000 units. And even if you don't have an official MOQ, like from your supplier, I do recommend putting something there, like arbitrarily, what's the minimum number of units you would order from that supplier? So it's not telling you to place an order for like 22 units, which it probably wouldn't, but occasionally that, you know, so I would just put that number there if you can. Same thing goes with, if you're selling a really large amounts of inventory, this is minimum transfer quantity, MTQ. And, you know, some people have like, I need to have a minimum of, you know, 400 units, which is 1 pallet. I'm never going to transfer less than 1 pallet. So you could put that there if you wanted to. In our case, we do everything per carton, not per pallet on this particular product. Packaging info, again, how many units per carton if you're doing carton packaged cartons. That way it's not telling you to order an odd number of products. Now the lead time here, you're going to set up lead time when you set up your vendors. That's part of the startup guide. But just to show you what a lead time looks like, this is how long it takes to actually, from the day you place your order to when it actually arrives at Amazon, or if you're just going to a third-party warehouse and storing it, whatever that lead time is, you can build out that lead time based on your standard and most often way of ordering. So in our case, it's about 30 days of production in China, 30 days of ocean freight, 5 days to get to the warehouse. We're giving the warehouse 5 days for it to check in and process and then put it on a truck, and then it goes to Amazon. And this is kind of like worst case scenario, 78 days. But we're finding that especially last year with COVID, the lead times were taking a little bit longer. So we're using that as our default. You can actually create many, many lead times and choose whichever one you want and save that as your default for this product, for this grouping of products, etc., as I mentioned before. In this case, we're just doing that. So everything is going through our third-party warehouse. Some of it stored at the warehouse, the rest of it goes to FBA. Some people just skip the warehouse and ship direct from supplier to FBA. It's totally your choice. All right, and then if we wanted to, we could set up an express lead time. And this would be something like, let's see, I think I have one in here. Like basically air freight. Here it is. So if I wanted to, I could set this as my express lead time. And what that would do is, right, so here's my express lead time. If SoStocked predicted a stock out and says you need to place an order, in order to minimize or even eradicate or eliminate the stock out, we're gonna do the math for you and figure out, based on those two lead times, is it worth it to send some by air and get it to inventory faster, get it to Amazon faster, and they'll actually split that shipment into half by sea, half by air, or whatever your express lead time is. Now, right now, we're not doing any type of profit analysis on those in terms of cost analysis. How much does it cost to do air versus, sea freight, and the profit versus the cost? But we are that's one of our future updates, is a whole cost analysis, profitability part of the software that's coming soon. So in case you were wondering about that, that will be coming later. All right, transfer time is 15 days from when I tell my warehouse to send inventory to when it gets fully checked in. That's a little high, but I'm being safe. Okay, this is a cool, so backing up to what I was saying before, these are the most important settings to get all of your order and transfer schedule correct. Now we're going into some of the other forecast settings, like trend. So if I turn this on, I have the option to look at a period of time and compare it to an earlier period of time to see if we're up or down by what percentage. And then I can add that percentage or that negative percentage if I wanted to. A realistic way to look at this that I like to use as an example is year to date. So if I'm using last year's sales calculation, which I am, and I go, well, last year I was doing a lot less than I am this year. And you might remember that from when I was looking at our velocity calculation, we were doing like 80 to 90 units a day. And then I went to last year's sales and it dropped down to like 17 or something, 20. So we're doing a lot more than last year. And this can be shown here. We're actually 64% up. So I'm just going to add that 64% on top of last year's calculation. And now, if we look at our velocity, you can see that it's still not quite as high as our current velocity, but it's a little bit closer, and I can add some growth on top of that. But that's why now these have turned blue, because it actually shows you last year's sales we did, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. Let me go back. See, what am I doing here? Oh, I know what's happening. Okay, never mind. My apologies. There's something else that's conflicting with that I haven't turned off yet. But anyway, you get the idea. So that's what the trend is. Sales spikes, what it's going to do if this is turned on, which it is now, but normally it's turned off. You have to manually turn this on. It'll look through the last year of sales, and it will try to find these weird anomalies where your sales spiked up. And our arbitrary calculation is 150% or more of your average daily sales for that product. If it jumped up and we don't know why, we're going to factor that out in your future forecasts and just give you an average for your forecast. So you can see a bunch of these sales that jumped up here for that period of time. These were all big spikes. I'm actually going to turn this off because let's say our product is very volatile. It goes up and down a lot. And I just want any spike in sales. I'm not doing deep discounts or crazy promotions. So I want sales spikes to be factored, to not be factored out. So I'm turning those off. Deep discount sales, these are generally turned off as well. But if you turn it on, it will look in your history and look for any time when your sale price dropped by 30% or more, and the subsequent spike in sales because you're obviously running a promo or doing a relaunch or some giveaway or something like that. And really those units shouldn't count into your future forecast. So we would turn that on if we want to factor those out. In this case, we don't have any, so I'm just going to leave that off. Okay, cool. I know I'm going fast, folks. I got a lot to cover, so bear with me. You're doing awesome with your patience. And if you run into more questions, just go ahead and type them out. And then we'll have a Q&A section at the end, of course. Okay, so that was deep discounts. Stockouts, I think we already talked about that. Multi-channel fulfillment sales. So if you're selling, for example, if you have a Shopify site or WooCommerce or one of these other sites, and you're selling, you're fulfilling by Amazon, but you're selling off of Amazon. So we do that. We have a Shopify site and we have Amazon, but they're all fulfilled by Amazon. I want to make sure I include those off Amazon sales in, even though they're being fulfilled by Amazon. This is all just kind of summary of what we've already talked about. Buffer stock. This stuff is pretty cool. Check this out. So let's say that regardless of what your velocity calculation is, there's one thing that SoStocked could never predict, and that's your future sales. Like if when I mean sales, I don't just mean velocity, I mean your future like promotions. So let's say I'm going to be running a lightning deal, or in this case, I'm going to be running like, on March 20th, I'm running some kind of an influencer giveaway, or you know what I mean? I've got like a Instagram person who's going to do a makeup thing and a video, and that I expect that I'm going to sell 400 units from that promo. I can actually just schedule an exact date or even a date range if I wanted to, and how many units I'm going to sell, or I estimate, and then I can save that. And so if we go to March 20th, you'll see, where is it? Right here. You can see it jumped up by 400 units, and it actually shows you that calculation. When it's blue, that means that we've programmed something into it. Normally they're black like this. So the blue numbers are changes that we've programmed in, and you can see exactly what those are. So those are the future lightning deals, and then future seasonal spikes. This is really awesome. So let's say you don't have enough past sales data to do last year's sales as a velocity baseline. So you're just using current velocity, and you're trying to predict, okay, how do I calculate those future ups and downs? You can literally build out an entire year of seasonal ups and downs using this feature. So for example, we're doing something called a March launch, I guess. I'm going to actually delete that because that was messing up my numbers earlier. But let's say I'm going to go, I know that from June 1st to July 31st, I'm going to call this summertime, and I have an increase by 100% of my average velocity. I can just add that 100% increase for an entire period of time, and you can do this for Christmas time, you can do it for whatever. So let me go down to, I got two slider bars here, sorry. Here we go, let's go down to June 1st, and you can see that now it's adding it's literally doubling my sales because I said it's 100% increase for that entire 2-month period of time. And then it ends at the end of July and it goes back down to what it normally would be selling based on whatever my current calculation is or my last year's sales or whatever. So that's kind of cool. So I could build one of those for summertime and another one for Christmas. You could even do a negative, sorry, where did it go? Here we go. A negative future sales spike. If you wanted to, you could say, you know what? After summertime, my sales go down by 50%. So I want to put like a negative 50% from, you know, this date to this date. And you could actually build out an entire model of your sales going up and down, chunk by chunk, just using this. You can add as many as you want. So that's a pretty cool feature. All right. That's about it on all the settings. There's a few more things you could do, but I don't want to go too far into the weeds. Let's look at our order time, our inventory timeline, and let's look at what all these numbers and charts mean. This is a really good visual way to see what's actually going to happen with your product and your orders, and when are things going to happen. So when it's light blue like that one is, that means it's a forecasted or suggested activity. And when it is darker blue like this one, I'm not talking about the color box, but the actual text itself, that means that it's something that's already been programmed in, okay? So this is a suggested or forecasted transfer. On March 14th, they're saying we need to transfer that many units and it'll arrive on March 29th. So if we place that transfer order, then on March 29th, you should see it arrive to FBA and your sales and your inventory goes up by that number of units. This is just what's at Amazon right now, including any customer orders. So it's taking my total units, it's subtracting the customer orders and then giving me that number on top of what I already have. And then my daily projected velocity, right? And then my lightning deal, you get the idea. Now, if we scroll down a little ways, we can see over here is our first forecasted order. And the orders are going to be these 3 little boxes. And since I'm going through a warehouse and not direct to FBA, it's going to show up in the order to warehouse column. Otherwise, my orders would show up in the take FBA action column. In this case, it's saying place an order for 4,000 units. It should arrive in July based on my lead time. And if we go to, what is that, July 5th? Oh, that's my sister's birthday. If I scroll down to July 5th, there it is. You can see it arrives at my warehouse. I'm being told to transfer 2250, and then that'll take, you know, 15 days, and then the 2250 shows up wherever it shows up. Okay. Now, sometimes you'll see these weird anomalies, like all these crazy little like transfer every day. That's probably because there's some conflicting data with some of these sales or something way in the future. This will probably just sort itself out. But if you ever have a problem where you don't understand something, just go to our help desk, do a screenshot or film a little Loom video or screencast, and just go up here and contact our support team. And we check this all the time. And we can usually go and research and figure out, well, maybe there's something with your order schedule or some weird setting that you didn't realize was affecting it. And that's why it's giving you this strange anomaly. All right, so assuming that, let me close this. Assuming that you have saved all of those settings, your forecast, your settings for all of your products. And again, you can do it globally or by brand, or you can set up filters and do all these filters and then do the settings that way. Or, you know, I only want to do it by warehouse or by, like, you can sort this data however you want, save all those settings, assuming you've done all that, and assuming that that all of your inventory at your warehouse is being accounted for, and then all your FBA inventory is accounted for, then these suggestions will make a lot of sense, and they will be based on reality and based on logic. So you have a couple ways that you can place your orders. You can do it one at a time. You can click this one and order all from this supplier. So that would literally place an order for all of these. Yeah, and that's it from that supplier. You can also go up here to orders in the next 30 days, which is what I like to look at. What's urgent? What do I have to think about right now? And the only thing I really need to order right now is these bridal gloves. I'm just going to go place that order and not even worry about all that other stuff. You can also look at, what do I need to transfer? A transfer, again, is from the warehouse. So I could transfer this and transfer that and not worry about any of the other stuff. And anytime you're on one of these dashboards, it's basically just pre-programmed filters, right? So what do I have to transfer in the next 15 days? You can change this if you wanted to. What do I need to transfer in the next 7 days? And it'll filter out, well, these are both within the 7 days as well. And then what you could do is you could actually rename this dashboard from 15 days to 7 days. Or you could save a new dashboard and you could have both of them up there. And now when I come back in and I just click this button, I'm like, what do I got to do this week? Boom, there it is. Same thing with orders. Okay, good. So let's say I'm going to go back to my orders. And let's say I'm going to place that order. If I click that button, SoStocked will automatically create a purchase order. And this is the purchase order workflow. So now we've gone from settings to vendors to inventory to forecast, and we're up here in the orders section. And I'm just going to name my PO. I usually use a date or something like that, just so it's easy for me to keep track, or maybe a part number, whatever you want. It's automatically going to choose the supplier that is connected with those products. So that's fine. Now you notice that date is in the future, because this was in what orders do I need to place in the next 30 days, and I don't really need to place any orders today, but I'm just showing you how this works. This is projected to be placed on next month on the 5th. So it's just looking at what I have, my current inventory, and what do I need to order. This is actually I think this is a bundle. So I don't want to get too much in the weeds on bundling, but if you do bundle products, our system can help you bundle them, and it will automatically pick the sub products. So one product is one of these and two of these, for example, and it will do the math for you and actually calculate that and put that into your order. Here's our lead time, which you could change if you wanted to. You know, I want to use a different lead time because we're going to do something different on this order. Otherwise, it'll just pick your default lead time for that particular supplier. Pretty basic stuff. You can put your shipping costs if you wanted to split the shipment. What marketplace is this for? You can put payment terms. There's all kinds of stuff. You can actually have text down here. These are like instructions to your supplier. You can sign it. And then when you save and preview, it's going to go to the next step, which is your work order. So since our workflow, our lead time is supplier to warehouse, warehouse to Amazon, our system will automatically generate a work order for when that inventory gets to the warehouse. If it was just going direct to Amazon, it will not create a work order. It would just go PO direct to Amazon. But in this case, once the inventory gets to the warehouse, totally separate company than our supplier, we need to give the warehouse some instructions. So we're just giving them some basic instructions on how to bundle it, how much we want to store, how much we want to ship. We can even right here upload, let's say, some FBA shipping labels or the UPS labels. We can upload that here, put instructions here. Hey, please label my inventory, blah, 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 blah. Send it to Amazon, sign it, and then internal notes. You know, I really like this warehouse, whatever, right? Or make sure to talk to Fred. He's the guy that, you know, whatever notes for internally. Save and preview, and it will actually show you what the PO and the work order look like. Here's the PO, quantity, cost, blah, 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 right? Here's the first shipment, here's the second shipment, we're splitting it, all the data, and then the work order is going to go to my warehouse. There's all the data, and then when I submit it, it gives me this final page, and you can actually email it direct from SoStocked. I usually CC myself just so I get those emails. The emails will come from SoStocked, like orders@sostocked.com. So if you choose to send it through your own system, you can just download it instead. Download the PO and just as a PDF file, and then you can do your own emailing. But if you wanted to send it from our system, you could do that. Again, it will include links to download those shipping documents that I uploaded, or you could add them here. You do need to click the done button if you want to save it. Or if you're not going to send it, if you click send and next, it will also do that for you. Okay, cool. So that's how the POs work. Now let's go into the order tracker. And actually, let me go back to the questions and make sure. So Sultan, I think I skipped over yours. How does the tool combine multiple marketplaces for restocks and purchase orders? Right. So yeah, I should have covered that on the forecast. So basically, let's go back to inventory for a second. So on a product by product level, I'm going to click into one of these products. There's a whole bunch of settings, and one of them is marketplaces. So in this case, this particular seller account is only in the US, only in the North American marketplace. Otherwise, if I had an API connected to Europe, it would show all the European options here. But in this case, this demo account is only in the North America. So you have an option of, I'm going to get to your question, but one real quick thing. You can group by any combination of marketplaces within that region, or you can just do something like this, where I just want all of my North America inventory to be counted as North America. I don't want to break it down. So that's called the NARF program here in the US, where all of my inventory is stored in the US, but people in Mexico and Canada are able to purchase from the US and it will ship out, as opposed to I'm actually physically sending inventory to a fulfillment center in Mexico, to a fulfillment center or multiple in Canada and in the US. I could break it down. So in this case, what I'm doing is automatically I'm doing US. I'm doing US and Mexico as one, and then Canada will be separate. But if I wanted to do NARF, I would just click that. I would probably, save this to all products. But as far as marketplaces, yeah, you can also just turn on and turn off marketplaces using this as well. I want to make sure I'm answering your question. How does the tool combine multiple marketplaces for restocks and purchase orders? Right. So depending on how you have that set up, let me just make sure there's no other settings blah, 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 that I should cover. No. So in your forecast, what you can do is you can filter by marketplace. So if I wanted to only look at, let's say you're selling in the UK, and I don't have a UK, but UK versus Europe, for example, I could choose UK, and I could just go apply filters. And then what I could do, and what I would do, is I would create a new dashboard, and I would call this US orders. So this is only the orders for my US marketplace, or UK, whatever, right? And I would save that. And then it will show up as a button up here that says US orders. So you can actually do that. And if you notice on our default, let me go to all forecasts actually. Bear with me one second. So it says right here what marketplace we're in. US Mexico, US Mexico, US Mexico. These are all US Mexico. There's probably a US only one here. I might have a Canadian one. This one's only being sold in Canada. You get the idea. So they're all mixed together. You could filter it, like I said, and save it as a dashboard. You could also group by, no, that's about it. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we're back at the order tracker. So we created a purchase order, and it'll show up here in production, and it's just gonna follow our lead time. So the units that we placed, what it is, blah, 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 and the expected day that it's going to leave production and go to the next step of the lead time. So it's 30 days in production. This was created whenever it was created, so it'll move out of production on March 22nd. And then it's just going to go en route. You get the idea. And it's going to follow that lead time until it gets to FBA. Now, or its final destination. If you're just sending it to a warehouse, it'll go here, and then the work order will send the work order like this to FBA. When the final inventory gets to FBA, it will show as being checked in, or how many units are checked in, like this one, right? This one is something that we have to reconcile, but Eventually, it'll actually just delete itself from this column once it's closed and kind of timed out. One thing I do want to tell you is let's say our, oh boy, I just realized it's really late and I have to end this call. Ah, I think I have another call coming. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that's basically how the system works. Any last minute questions before I wrap up? There's a lot more I could go over, but this is basically it. You can edit all this stuff. You can change these. I just want to make one point that once FBA starts scanning your inventory, it'll automatically show up here. And that's basically how the system works. You can reconcile FBA shipments, meaning like when an FBA shipment comes in, these ones looks like I need to reconcile, but I actually don't because I still haven't submitted them in Seller Central. Very soon, one of our updates that we're going to have is that when the inventory gets to Amazon, I'm sorry, when you're creating your FBA shipments, you'll be able to do that from inside of SoStocked. Right now, you have to go to Seller Central, you have to create the shipment, and then you have to come here in SoStocked, create your work order, your purchase order, and connect them through the reconcile shipments feature, which is really easy. But soon we're going to be able to connect those so you can actually create your shipments from inside of SoStocked, download the shipping documents, and just track it all here. Okay, guys, I'm so sorry. I am out of time. I see that there's some new questions, and unfortunately, I don't have time to answer them because I have someone waiting for a live onboarding call. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any specific questions, feel free to email me, stock@sostocked.com, or if it's a technical question, helpme@sostocked.com. That goes to Dan, or you can use the help button on the website here. Okay, I'm going to end off for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.